let's move on to this incredible, basically, takeover of golf by Mohammed bin Salman. Now, it's being reported as a merger between the PGA and LIV Golf, which is the Saudi-funded rival that went around and was poaching a whole bunch of players in order to create like a rival tour, massively overpaying them, and then with the idea that they're going to create this competition. The PGA Tour was responded by saying basically these are terrorists. You've never had to apologize for being part of the PGA. You're going to have to apologize constantly if you're part of the LIV Tour. If you do, that you're a complete sellout. And then next thing you know, PGA Tour is selling out itself. So if you look and Ben Walsh there has some of the details of the contract. The PGA will still technically have the kind of voting majority on the board that governs this, but the Saudis, through their sovereign wealth fund, will have the exclusive right to invest. In other words, they will own it. Like they are the owners. And so what does it even mean at that point that the PGA players have a voting membership if it's completely funded and owned by the Saudis? This seems like just a complete victory for them as far as I can see. What's your read on it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the memes on this were incredible. First of all, who knew that golf Twitter was so funny? Not me. And speaking of which, speaking of Twitter, let's roll the next element. Let's just put C2 up here. This was a pretty interesting take by Senator Mike Lee, where he said the PGA Golf Tour is buying Saudi-backed LIV Golf Tour. It looks like a long-established dominant incumbent is acquiring a nascent competitor, one that has been challenging its dominant position. So there you see a counter argument from actually an antitrust angle, which is pretty interesting too. Matt Fuller, then we can put the next element up here as we roll through a lot of the amusing reactions, had this great tweet where he's like doing this transcript of a conversation between Saudi Arabia and the PGA Tour. Hey, PGA golfers, we have a bunch of money to offer you for a new league, PGA. You're ruining the game and sports washing your reputation of human rights abuses. Okay, but what if we offered you a lot of money, PGA? Today, we'd like to announce a merger.
Yeah, basically.
And then there's just an incredible confluence of events here. So we can put the next element up. This is a Wall Street Journal story about Secretary of State Antony Blinken. He goes to Saudi Arabia, and reportedly he's going to say that human rights are in he's going to take up the issue of human rights with the Saudis, which of course is what the Biden administration wants to posture as. We'll see how substantive that ends up being. And then finally, this is maybe my favorite element of the story, C5. We can put this tweet up. This is a tweet from Timothy Meads of a Donald Trump truth from July 18th, 2022, where he basically predicted this. Is pretty crazy, where he said all of those golfers that remain, quote, loyal to the very disloyal PGA in all of its different forms will pay a big price when the inevitable merger with LIV comes, and you get nothing but a thank you from PGA officials who are making millions of dollars a year. Ryan, my question to you is, Trump's there's nobody who knows corrupt business deals better than Donald Trump. Is this not him just having the perfect experience to predict the moment?
This was crystal clear to him. Like, and he from his perspective, he probably couldn't see how other people couldn't see where this was going. He's like, what part of this don't you guys understand? Like, they have an enormous amount of money that they're willing to spend. People like money. They will eventually take the money and they will own you. And I like the way that like isn't the right word for it. The way that he addresses love, right? The way that he addresses the players who were trying to take a stand against this is just amazing. Saying like, look, you guys are the fools because you're eventually going to be in the pay of MBS anyway, and all you're going to get is a pat on the head from the PGA, while the PGA is eventually going to sell out, take the money. All these other players that are selling out are going to take the money, and you're still going to end up working for the Saudis, but just at the same pay or maybe even less than you're getting now. And tragic as it is, that turns out to have been, basically 100% correct.
So we have now Antony Blinken going to Saudi Arabia, and Ryan, you know this particular issue area very well. Of course, the Biden administration wants to posture, and they got their Wall Street Journal headline, assuming this is the one that they wanted. As Blinken visits Saudi Arabia, human rights are back in focus. Subheading: Biden officials have pushed the Saudis to lift travel bans on American citizens. So Blinken is prepping to visit Saudi Arabia this week and prepping a human rights message to the Saudis. How confident are you that that actually comes to fruition in a substantive way?
Not very, because as you saw, MBS basically jacked up gas prices right ahead of the announcement of the PGA takeover. So it's almost inaccurate to say that the Saudis are buying PGA. We are buying the PGA. With the money that we're putting into our gas tanks and then sending over to MBS that he's then using to buy PGA, and he's restricting oil production in order to drive up gas prices to help offset the tiny amount that he's going to spend for the PGA. So Blinken is going to have that he's going to have to negotiate. He's also going to be pushing, like he said, for MBS to release a bunch of American residents, who are not allowed to, who are being kept illegally in the country. So a lot of them for social media posts on a social media platform that Saudi Arabia is a significant owner of, Twitter. You constantly see new stories of people being arrested and sentenced to insanely long sentences for something that they said on Twitter. A significant number of those are American residents or American citizens. And so Blinken is going to be taking up their cases. So those are a couple things he's going to have to push. Meanwhile, they're pushing a cruel and absurd Yemen policy while they're there, and that is probably the real driver of Blinken's visit, which is to try to undermine these talks that are ongoing directly between Saudi Arabia and the Houthis, because the U.S. says that they want a kind of quote unquote UN brokered peace, and by UN broker they mean a huge role for the United States in those talks. The U.S. is deeply concerned about the fact that China was able to, and we've talked about this before on the show, that China was able to reach this kind of détente between Iran and Saudi Arabia, and as a result, you wound up with these peace talks progressing. So Blinken is going to try to make sure that those peace talks jump from there over into basically a U.S. brokered situation that would then, the U.S. hopes, continue to give them access to the Gulf of Aden, which is, controls something like 40% of the maritime economy. All, oil and shipping all flows through there and into the Mediterranean. So that's really what's going on. And so, how much of a role are human rights going to play into that? We'll see.
And what do you make, lastly, of Mike Lee's antitrust argument in this case?
I mean, I guess it's funny. It'd be funny if Lena Khan, FTC chair, was able to come in and say, you know what, actually, we're not going to allow this. We want more competition in our golf leagues. I don't see that happening. And also, it doesn't. He had to kind of contort what really happened in order to make it fit his kind of joke there, because it doesn't actually seem like the incumbent dominant player acquired an upstart competitor. It seems like the upstart competitor acquired the incumbent.
Right.
But whatever, close enough for a joke.
It's close enough for a joke, and it also is true that you have these two, whether or not it's an upstart, two hugely groups that have a big swath of the market joining each other up.
And people probably know this, but the NFL, Major League Baseball, those types of entities have carve-outs to antitrust policy written into law. They are legally allowed to operate illegally. And in order to have that cartel, to have this monopoly on baseball, we as a public are then able to regulate baseball and football and basketball in ways that we otherwise wouldn't have been.
Hey guys, ready or not, 2024 is fully upon us now, and Soccer and I have been brainstorming ways that we can really up our game for this critical election.
Yeah, we rely on our premium subs to expand our coverage, to add staff, to upgrade the studio. We just want to give you the best independent coverage of this election, which is possible. So if you can help us out, become a premium subscriber today, breakingpoints.com, or the link is down here in the description video. It really means the world to us, and if you like what we're all about, this is the best possible way to keep us 100% independent, working only for you.